morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Jennifer Hardy and you are listening to the Unstoppable Podcast Show. Today I am joined by the lovely Stephanie White. How are you doing, Stephanie?
Very well, thank you. Very, very well.
Excellent. And Stephanie and I are going to take you through some awesome things today. So this should be a huge dose of inspiration, motivation, and hopefully some steps in the right direction. So take a notepad out and pen and write down any light bulb moments that you may have, because obviously we would love to hear from you. We value you as part of this community. So Stephanie has a business and it's called Stef Spills Inc. And Stephanie, tell us a little bit about what you do with that business.
So my business is, I'm a personal branding photographer first and foremost, and I help fellow entrepreneurs to really show their professionalism, to set them apart in whatever industry of work they do, that they're a leader and they're an expert. And that's a big passion of mine.
Yeah. And it's not only just the brand and photography though. You actually take people's elements to their brand. So whether it be a product based or whether it be service based, and you can create imagery through that as well, can't you?
Yeah. So I have it's like a stock image subscription, but there's a bespoke, very personalized aspect to it. Yeah. So basically, if you've got a launch or if you're bringing out a new book or whatever project you're working on, you'll give me a brief, give me your branding guide, your color palettes, and I will go and create images that are unique to you. So there's that exclusivity about it as well. So you get that one-on-one work with me.
Fantastic. Excellent. I adore it. So tell me, what made you decide to go down this route?
Wow. I've got quite an interesting story, but to keep it simple, basically I've grown up in a house full of photographers and creative entrepreneurs. My mum's a New York Times bestselling author. My dad's a filmmaker. So that kind of thing kind of just, the insanity runs in the blood. But about 2 years ago when I was living in England, I had an accident that almost took my life. And after years of working for other people, I knew I needed to take a passion of mine and make it a career, and nothing was going to stop me. And so from the accident, I basically have created this empire in this business and love every single day working in it.
Amazing. So something that really lights your soul up.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And let's take it back to the beginning then. I'd love to find out, and I think it's always really interesting to find out about, people that are really driven and motivated to make change and inspiring. Where did they come from? What is the roots of who they are, and why do they then take on this role of entrepreneurship, which is demanding and very, very tough at times? So tell us a little bit about, growing up. What was that like?
So I grew up in South Africa, and I loved it there. Absolutely loved it. But my dad's a British citizen. He was born in the UK, and I think towards the end of my high school, and I've got two younger sisters, they kind of saw that the future there for us coming out of school and going into uni, and from there on, the prospects weren't as good as they wanted them to be. So they moved us. But growing up, I had such a valuable experience learning to love everybody and to just appreciate human beings for who they are. And living in such a beautiful, beautiful place gave me such an appreciation for nature and the earth. And it was just such a holistic, collective way of living. And I have such happy memories of living and growing up in South Africa.
And tell me a little bit about when it comes to your artistry, how did you learn to do what you do? Did you learn, or was it just something that came so naturally to you?
I think it was a little bit of both. I mean, when you're talented at something, it does come easy, but there's obviously a lot of technicality to photography. And my greatest teacher and best mentor is my dad, because he's got, 40 years of experience doing photography and filmmaking. So I learned a lot from him and absorbed as much as I could. And I think that that's a very important part, especially when you're running your own business or starting your own business, is you've got to know your trade very, very well. So, yeah.
And you mentioned briefly in there, you have got quite a story. And that sounded a little bit as if maybe in that story there was some sort of adversity that you had to overcome in order to move forward with what you're doing now. Would that be true in saying?
Are you talking about growing up in South Africa and, moving internationally, or the accident that I mentioned?
Yeah, the accident that you mentioned. The accident.
Oh, yeah. So the brief story for that is that I have always loved horses. Horses have always been something that I've been very passionate about. I've ridden horses my entire life. And after leaving South Africa, I went to work at a stable yard in the Midlands in the UK.
Yes.
And one afternoon I was so happy at that job. I loved every moment of it, but had an accident in which I didn't listen to my intuition, and I landed, I was crushed by the ramp of a lorry. Nice. So one of these 5-ton lorries, and I shattered my pelvis. I broke my lower spine. I was airlifted to hospital because I wasn't breathing. I had really low blood pressure. And it's obviously all quite a blur. I mean, these are things that I've been told, but yeah, so they flew me to hospital in Birmingham, where I spent 2 weeks learning how to walk again, having to be washed by the nurses, and, all of those things that you suddenly have your freedom taken away from you when,
yes,
you take for granted the things that are so easy.
My goodness, how did you even begin to start recovering after something like this happening? Like, it's horrific. I can't even imagine the pain, first of all, and then the shock of thinking to yourself, well, you may not have came through that.
That for me there was a lot of trauma involved with that, and I still carry, that kind of trauma today. But in my mind's eye, I spent a lot of time lying in bed. I spent 3 months lying in bed. I had a lot of time to think and reflect. And one of the things that I took from it, and I will always take from it, is that I can walk and I've still got my legs, and that in itself, I've got my life, I've got my legs, I've got this body that I didn't used to love, that I now love, because I'm so appreciated. I so appreciate everything that it does for me. Absolutely. So I think what I've done is try to take the positive out of such a horrible situation and use it as a strength rather than let it beat me down.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important to note for anyone out there that's listening as well, for you, there was obviously this huge kind of divine intervention of, this, you should be leading your best life, which is what you're doing now. And that's incredible that you made that shift. But people can make that shift, can't they? Just from, not from having trauma, not from having a setback as well. People can just change their mind. They can just one day say, I do not enjoy this work that I'm doing. I do not enjoy this relationship that I'm in. And they can begin to change things.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you're, not happy with the way you're eating, and you're not happy with, anything, you can find a way of changing. And the biggest thing that I learned was, don't wait. You think, oh, I'll wait until, New Year and then I'll start going to the gym, or you wait till the end of the week before I do this, or I'll end this relationship when I've, earning more money. Like, the longer you wait, you will stay in an uncomfortable and unhappy situation. And sometimes you just got to bite the bullet and make that change. And it doesn't need to start from a trauma. And often if you don't let it start from a trauma, you actually, you give yourself a bit of a break, because you don't know what the universe is trying to tell you by a trauma. I mean, there's a message in everything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what would you say would be the first steps for someone that do want to change their life. They want to do what you've done, like something incredible, like follow their passion. What would you say would be their first steps?
The first steps to start right now.
Yeah.
Literally start right this very second. Do not wait for Monday. Do not wait till you've got more money. Don't wait. And that was the thing that two things that I learned was life is short and it can end very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And the second thing is you don't have enough time, but there is a lot of time. And if you want something bad enough, you'll make it happen. For example, I started my photography business and I did not own my own computer. I didn't own a camera, but I had the skill set to do it, and I had the contacts and the connections and the clients. So I'd borrow cameras and I would edit on the family 7-year-old Apple Mac, you know, at night when nobody was around, you know, just to start. And now I've got the best equipment you can get, but it takes time.
Yeah.
But I started.
Yeah. And when obviously when you were starting, like you said there, you know, you didn't have your own equipment and stuff like that, people use that as an excuse, don't they? They use it as an excuse. Well, I can't do this because I don't have this thing. And I hear it all the time, especially in the kind of digital marketing space as well. People saying, you know, well, I don't have a website, so I can't promote myself. Or I don't have this other shiny thing, so I can't do it. But it's just untrue. Like, you can start with literally nothing as long as you're on fire and you're passionate.
Exactly. And the thing is, you've got to wake up every day with that passion, and you've got to take that passion and motivation and turn it into discipline. Because once you're disciplined at something, when it gets hard, you'll keep doing it. And eventually you will realize one day, hey, I've just, you know, accomplished one of my biggest dreams and I didn't even realize it because it took me so long to do, but it has now happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, for example, like after my accident, I'd already started my business. I couldn't sit at a desk because of my pelvis and the way I broke my pelvis. I couldn't actually sit flat on a hard chair, or a chair for, you know, 15 minutes or more would become incredibly painful. So I'd have to work in bed. So I'd still be sitting in bed at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, but I've done an entire day's work. Now I sit at a desk and I have my office and my, as time has gone on, but I could have used that as an excuse, but I did not.
Yeah. You just kept pushing forward, kept going. You mentioned there as well, I mean, you must have been pretty young when you moved all the way from, where's your exact location? Where is it you're living now?
I'm actually in Perth, Australia now.
And where was it? New Zealand, wasn't it, where you were from?
No, South Africa.
South Africa. So
yeah.
In South Africa, what were you pretty young when you moved from South Africa over to the UK then?
So my parents left South Africa 3 years before I did. I moved out of home when I was 18.
Yeah.
So by the time I was 21, I just turned 21, I'd moved over to the UK.
My goodness, I was young when I moved just to London, and I thought that was huge for me. So what was your decision to move to the UK? Like, did you have friends over here? Because that is quite a big thing to do as well, like move all the way across the world.
So that also stemmed from another trauma. I stayed in South Africa for a boy who I believed I was going to marry, and it was going to be happily ever after, and it turned out not to be. And after, moving out of his house, I had to find a way to support myself financially, and that meant getting a 9 to 5, but it was actually 7:30 to 5:30 and it was living hell, and I was so depressed. I had to make a change to survive, and I knew that going to live with my family in the UK was the best thing I could do, and it absolutely was. It was terrifying, but making that decision saved my life and set me on a new path.
My goodness. So literally going from that and then obviously having that accident. So two things back to back, really, which it could have been mentally, it could have been so catastrophic to moving forward in any way. So tell me as well a little bit, how do you, because even you did mention that you still even now sometimes have kind of trauma the visits, and how do you keep your mindset so strong? Do you do exercises? Do you do meditation? What are some of the things that you do to keep mentally really strong after going through things like that?
The first thing I would say, if giving, what I've done, and this is what I give advice, would be to keep your family and your friends close and talk about how you're feeling. And if you're having a day where things are triggering you, just speak, say something to someone, say, I'm not having a good day, and get it off your chest. And if you find that it's still just weighing on you, like it used to do with me, I'd have really, really dark days, but I just cut myself some slack. And I thought to myself, you know what? It's a bad day. It's not a bad life. I've had bad things happen to me. But whatever I take with it now and what I do with it tomorrow is what actually counts. And it sounds cliche, but it's true. What I decide to do with what's happened to me is only up to me. Nobody else can decide that for me. And I'm accountable for how I treat myself after a trauma. And I looked after myself. I go to the gym. I exercise. I do a lot of gardening. I've got a green thumb. I ride horses. I do things that make me happy.
Yeah.
And I think that's so, so important, especially if you're struggling after a trauma.
Absolutely.
Is to keep looking after yourself.
Keep looking after yourself. And I think in this day and age, we have such busy lives and busy missions and goals and aspirations, and we can sometimes put ourselves completely on the back burner.
Absolutely.
And not look after ourselves and give so much to others, and forget that actually if you're not fulfilled, like your soul is not happy, you will burn out. You'll burn out really quickly.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, if your cup is empty, how are you going to feed someone else?
Exactly.
You can't.
Exactly. So tell me a little bit about moving forward in this incredible business that you've built for yourself. What are some of your aspirations and your dreams and goals for the business that you have just now?
One of my biggest goals would be to be doing branding shoots for entrepreneurs all over Australia. So if you want to fly me to Sydney, then that would be amazing. And to be able to, my goals and dreams for my business are so that I can have a certain kind of lifestyle. And it's not necessarily to have a 6-figure business and be able to tell everybody I've got a 6-figure business. It's about, I want to be a mum. I want to be a stay-at-home mum who runs my own business like my mum did. She worked, but she was always at home, and I want to be very involved with my kids. I don't have kids yet, but that's a big goal of mine, is to be present, be an example to my children that you can work hard and you can play hard. And so I want my business to get to the point where it's grown so much that I'm shooting all over Australia and being the best mum to my kids that I can be.
I love it. And I love that you have already put the wheels in motion for that. Obviously, I was 21 when I had my first son. So it's taken me a long time and a long while to, get to the point where I have that balance. And I did struggle for a while. The fact that you're going to be starting off like that is just so inspiring. It's incredible. And for any women that are out there listening who do want to have family, it can be done. You can have the best of both worlds 100%. And like you said earlier on, Stephanie, the sooner you begin to do your life's work, which is for me what's in your heart and your head to do, that's when things start to fall in place massively.
Oh, so true. Absolutely. So true.
So tell us as well, Stephanie, what are some of your biggest inspirations out there? What is the things that you kind of draw on? Do you love podcasts or reading or anything like that?
I have recently, in the last few months, got into podcasts. Yeah. I love them. Absolutely love them. I've listened to podcasts about, I love the mom topic, Australian birth stories and health podcasts, and I've listened to, you know, anything that's uplifting and interesting and that captures my imagination. I love it. I take so much. The people that create that kind of podcast are the people that you should be listening to and should be using as a mentor, because they've got a lot of insight and experience to share, and that's why they run podcasts.
Exactly. I love it. I just feel as if you can learn something new from every single thing that you listen or pick up to read. It's incredible. You've got a fountain of knowledge. I mean, I do read some absolute nonsense, but I love knowing crazy facts that no one else would know. So that's my guilty pleasure. Like the other day, literally, I was reading about worms. I don't know what's going on in my head, but I was, because they're very interesting little creatures.
I know exactly what you mean, and you won't believe it, but this afternoon I was doing some planting, some gardening, and I found earthworms in the pot that I bought. So I spent half an hour before the podcast reading about how to grow earthworms.
See what I mean? Just like I've actually got a mindfulness book, and so the book actually gives you some things to research, you know, and we'll look into things like learn as much as you possibly can. And hence the reason why I was like, okay, what is something that I don't really like animal wise? Worms. Let's learn about them. Let's find something to love about them. It's incredible. It really is. So your plans are to like literally take over the space with your incredible skills and talents. Let's remind everyone what you actually do. So you've got this fantastic branding and photography business, but also you do the bespoke branding. And how much do you adore doing that for people? Is it just something that you actually have fun with?
Oh, I have so much fun with it. Much fun with it, because you can literally do anything, and I can't help it but walk around the shop and think, oh, that could be really cool in a photograph. How much is it? $5,000? No, okay, we won't buy that. But you know, so there's that I'm a creative person, a right brain person, and I thrive on creativity. So to always be thinking about what I can create for my clients and how we can work together to, you know, just have this amazing content. I absolutely love it. I go to sleep thinking about it, and I wake up thinking about it.
Love it. That is when you know that you're on the right path. I love it. It's so exciting. So one last thing I would love to leave everyone listening. What would you say is, and this is quite a hard one, what would you say is your favorite quote or mantra for your day-to-day living?
So I have one, and it's been the same ever since my ex-boyfriend broke up with me in South Africa, and it's, the best is yet to come.
I love that.
And the best is always coming, and the best is now. And I often say that to myself when things are tough, or when I'm having a bad day, or when I've got family stress. I always say the best is yet to come, and I keep repeating it to myself. It's my mantra, and it's gives me such comfort.
It really does. It's beautiful, and it is so true. The best is yet to come. It really is for all of us. Well, Stephanie, thank you. It's been a real pleasure to speak to you and to find out about your life and what you're doing in the world, and helping these incredible women and men that you're working with get themselves out there in a way that is authentic to them. Because not only does what you do build their business, but it also builds their credibility, doesn't it?
That's the whole purpose of it, is to build your credibility.
Stepping into that kind of expert status, as opposed to just being kind of running the run of the mill and like everyone else. And I think it's more important than ever for people to understand that they have to be unique, especially in this online space now. You can't get away with the old school copy and paste. It just doesn't work, because it's getting bigger, isn't it? It's getting busier. People are starting to see and understand that, you know, being online is the way. It's the way forward.
And people can see when you haven't put effort into your branding or in your photographs. People can see it. Yes. And what are you going to choose between the competition? Are you going to go with someone who's got beautiful photos, or are you going to go with someone who kind of takes selfies? You know, it's, you know, branding is everything online.
It is, absolutely. And I'm so excited to obviously get the chance to work with you this year as well. It's going to be amazing. You have to be watching this space. But tell us, Stephanie, where can we actually find you? Where can we reach out and have a little look at your work or get in touch with you, how can we do that?
So you can go and have a visit at my website, which is Stef, S-T-E-F, spillsinc.com. And you can contact me from there. You can go and check out my Instagram from there, but everything's on my website.
Amazing. Excellent. Well, thank you again for being here and spending time with me today. It's been a real pleasure to chat with you, Stephanie.
Thank you so much for having me.
So welcome. So I'll say good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone that's listened into this episode. I hope you found it super inspiring like I did, and motivating you to take action and not waiting. I think that was one of the biggest points in this episode. You know, the time is now. Life is so precious and it can be cut short. And this is, we want to be living on our purpose. We want to be creating some sort of legacy. We want to be creating some sort of wave, let's say, and helping to obviously inspire others to do exactly the same. So have the most amazing day, and we will bring in you the next episode real soon. Take care. Bye.